What's up, everybody? It's your boy Guapo, welcoming you to the debut episode of Not Your Average Mark Wrestling Podcast. Before we get started, want to take care of those that are taking care of us. Huge shout out, big thanks to Ross and the guys from Labor 12. Our intro music is called Head Rush. It's on the Monsters album. You can find it anywhere you find your streaming music.
Appreciate you guys.
Man.
Straight bangers.
Excellent song, excellent album. Love it. Now, you may be wondering who these guys sitting here with me are. Not only are these my co-hosts, these are my sons. So we're going to give a little introduction here. Sitting right over here beside me is the young gun himself, Hunter, Baby Bruss Russell.
Baby Bruss, that's me.
Sitting right over there in the comfort of his own home is my other son, the eldest, Buddy.
And the more handsome and better looking and smarter and everything.
The delusional one.
Amen, brother.
Buddy, little Guapo Russell.
Who's got more money though, Hunter?
These guys. See, this is what I have to put up with all the time. But you know what? Now you guys get to put up with it because we're doing a podcast. So getting to that, we're going to talk a lot about wrestling, a lot about what got us there. We'll start with you. So tell me what it is that got you into wrestling.
So before I answer that question, as the young gun, I got to make sure that I have my facts straight about this. For the viewers out there who are curious, not your average Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark is in reference to somebody who knows that wrestling is scripted but still approaches it as if it's not. Am I correct on that?
It's pretty close, yeah.
Buys into the emotions. They buy it.
Exactly.
Really...
So not only are we people who enjoy wrestling, but we're not your average wrestling enjoyers. So, what got me started on this journey? Well, it would have to take me back all the way back to the days where that man wasn't in the comfort of his own home. He was in the same room as me. So, we would, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd just be like, what am I looking at? There'd be dudes flying around, tables being broken, and I'm just like, where's the Wildcrats? You know what I'm saying? Like, but I saw it, I saw it with my eyes, so it kind of made me realize it a little bit. And then there were some days where I would get in fights with my brother, and then, this guy would hit me with like 18 different moves, and every single time it ended with the Walls of Jericho.
I remember.
It was terrible. I mean, yeah, you could probably hear ripples throughout the whole house how hard I was hitting the floor trying to tap out.
Concrete, too. Straight concrete.
Yeah, it was wild.
It was loud.
What really got me into it, though, was... you bought an Attitude Era disc set, which we still have. It's great watch, really. But that disc set, I saw it a couple of times, the same matches a couple of times, because that was what we like watching. It's what we had on demand for wrestling. So I around like the third time I saw it, I was like, wait, I recognize that. I recognize what's going on here. And what I recognized was the one and only Jeff Hardy. So that's probably that Attitude Era disc set and the copious amounts of arm bars from old Delusional over there that really got me exposed to wrestling.
You gotta say, richer Delusional.
True.
So, that being said, you got into it with the Jeff Hardy thing. Having watched a lot of his matches, what was the that moment that you saw it and you said, you know what? This is my jam. This is what I do now. This is what I'm invested.
So like I said, we had the Attitude Era disc set. So, I've watched the, DX like 18 times now. So I'm like, oh, these guys are funny. This is funny stuff. This is actually entertaining to watch. The next disc set had Jeff Hardy in one of the first matches climbing on top of a truck with Shawn Michaels' face on it and doing a swanton bomb on some Samoan guy. And I was like, this is crazy. What just happened? I was freaking out. And then, I was like, wow, that was so sick. But the very next match on that disc set was The Undertaker. That he's the scary guy. When I was at my young age, I was like, whoa, all right, yo, calm down there, guy. Like, he'd walk out, those bells hit, and I get like chills, you know what I'm saying? And then this guy, Mick Foley, he was crazy. He was just, he wore this little mask that was just terrifying. I was like, this is a wild match. And I watched The Undertaker choke slam Mick Foley through a steel cage, and I was flabbergasted, bewildered. I had
Yep.
no words for what I just watched, and I was like, I feel like I watched a crime. I got to be in it now. Like I got to be invested in this. So, and that moment just really made me realize that it's not, it's not just about the cool moves and all that. It's there's a little bit of an art to it. That's that moment, which is kind of weird because it was really intense and dramatic. Like it was just so like crazy. But that's what made me realize that wrestling for the people involved is an art, and it made me really appreciate it more.
And it's funny, talking about Mick Foley and looking like a train wreck. Most of his matches ended up looking like a crime scene, man. I mean, that dude and his bumps were insane.
Crazy.
So now that we've got your take on it, we move over to the other boy. Same question goes to you, son. What got you into wrestling, aside from myself? What got you into wrestling?
Okay. I was about to say my formative years. My father could probably tell you more about it than I could, but the first like storyline I remember being fully invested in was Triple H was the whole evolution, you know, and the slow build towards Batista, challenging Triple H for the title. I remember just being, at the time I just hated Triple H and I wanted to see him lose. Batista was big, massive, cool looking guy, had the charisma, the awesome entrance, um, and just watching that slow build all the way to the, him holding up the SmackDown contract and then the thumbs up with the thumbs down was just, I mean, I remember freaking out. And then the WrestleMania match happened, and then their feud ended in Hell in a Cell, and that feud just did it for me. And especially now, back then it was just Triple H sucks. I don't, take the belt off of him. But now you see, knowing wrestling the way I do, just the little things they did, the storytelling aspect, Batista holding up Triple H's arm and side eyeing the title, the little things like that. Just now that I'm older, can appreciate more. That's whenever I was like, all right, this is awesome. That really encapsulated, WWE for me.
Okay. And as far as the moment, you say you got invested in that storyline. Outside of that storyline, was there a moment like they refer to it sometimes as the OMG moments? Was there that one thing that you were like, what happened?
Okay, so whenever he came back in 2008, Jeff Hardy became my favorite wrestler, which is the reason that Bruss ended up watching so many Jeff Hardy videos because he was my favorite wrestler. Whenever I think he was feuding with Randy Orton at the time, he gets up on the rafters. He gets up there, he does his whole about to jump thing, and then he pauses and he looks up and he goes up another level and then does a swanton bomb into a dumpster. Oh man, I was like, this is crazy. That dude is ridiculous.
Wild.
And because of that, I was jumping off of houses onto mattresses and trampolines and jumping out of trees. I mean, Jeff Hardy was, I wanted to dye my hair purple. And I mean, Jeff Hardy was just very influential for me.
Awesome. Well, what some of the people listening might not know, we're gonna hold on just a moment here.
Yeah. Diego Romero.
Diego Romero, what's up, man? Thanks for joining us. What's going on, bud?
The man himself, Diego. All right.
All right. Well, as I started to say, what you guys might not know is the fact that these two were so big into wrestling made my life a living hell. And it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but I'm not, because I'd be sitting in the living room and their room was just behind the living room, like their room and the living room shared a wall. And I'd hear, and I knew what was fixing to happen. So I go get up and I haul butt into their room just in time to catch Buddy as he's trying to, frog splash Hunter from the top bunk onto the couch. When they say they were invested, like they were there. They were ready to do that. Same way I was when I was a kid. I mean,
I was Roman Reigns before Roman Reigns was Roman Reigns. Hunter, I had every title. Hunter never won. I was undefeated, never lost.
I still got the belt in the closet that I tried so many times and failed with an arm bar so many times trying to get it. Well, aside from, your favorite watching Buddy Frog splash me and arm bar and Walls of Jericho and moves I ain't even heard of. But aside from those moments, what were your moments that really got you into the wrestling before us?
Before you guys, I was 6 years old, and every Saturday, 6 o'clock. No, it's 5:30. Every Saturday, 5:30. I would make sure, I didn't care what I was doing, what friends I was out with. I was coming home and I was sitting down because Mama was making hamburgers, and me and Pop were going to sit down and watch WCCW, World Class Championship Wrestling.
Oh, wow.
And Pop was into it, and so I started watching with him. And you had the Fabulous Freebirds, and you had the Four Horsemen, you had Rock and Roll Express, you had Midnight Express, and Jim Cornette and his tennis racket. I mean, it was cool. There was all these storylines of people beating each other up. Terry Funk, first time I ever saw Terry Funk bleed was on WCCW. For those that don't know, WCCW is what it was before it became WCW. Yeah, I'm old, I know. But that's what started it for me, was watching it with Pop. We'd watch on Saturday night, and then I'd get up Sunday morning, and he'd change the channel over to USA, and there was a whole different group here. Now we've got WWF superstars. And so you've got Hulk Hogan and Tito Santana and Andre the Giant, Roddy Piper, Junkyard Dog. It's a whole different set of wrestlers, whole different set of storytelling. It was good guys versus bad guys all the time. It was great. I enjoyed it. And it kind of snowballed through till I was a teenager, and I was all in on Monday Nitro. On a Monday night, you don't call me, you don't come to my house, you don't knock on my window, don't even look at a picture of me. And everybody knew that because I was watching Nitro. So me and a couple of my friends, we'd get together, we'd watch Nitro, Sting, Lex Luger. We got to watch the whole NWO thing start. And that changed the game. I got to see that. I got to watch the takeover, the NWO, how it changed everything. But then they started putting everybody in the NWO. And now all of a sudden, everybody. Now they got 4 different factions of the NWO, and it started getting a little stale. Well, Tony Schiavone, he was one of the announcers for Nitro, says, you know what? You guys want to go over to the other one? Let me save you the trouble. Mick Foley used to be Cactus Jack here in WCW. Is going to win the title tonight. I bet that'll put butts in seats. Well, I got to thinking about it. I want to see Mick Foley win the title. So I changed the channel. I changed over to Monday Night Raw, and sure enough, Mick Foley wins the title, and everything goes crazy. And I started seeing some of the people and how the crowd was reacting. And I got to where I'd watch a little bit of Raw and go back to Nitro. And then next week I watched a little more Raw, and then went back to Nitro until it went on and on and on until I wasn't watching Nitro anymore. Now I was watching Raw. I got to see DX form, watching him take the Jeep with the howitzer down the tunnel trying to invade WCW, and nobody'd answer the door. Little stuff. How many people my age got in trouble for going to school telling everybody, we got 2 words for you? It changed the culture. So that was a big deal for me. And then, of course, when Buddy's born, we're watching. It's not like I quit watching wrestling. So he'd sit down with me and we'd watch it. And I took my fair share of the Walls of Jericho and Stunners and what was supposed to be pedigrees that didn't quite get there, but it was close enough. So he'd do those moves on me. He had this little Tigger stuffed animal. It was like this big. And he got the worst of it. I guarantee it. Because he'd do all his moves on it. Like he'd jump off his bed and drop the elbow. I mean, it was great.
Mess that thing up.
Hey, you thought you got it bad. That Tigger. he's not here today to be on the podcast. You know what I mean? Like,
if he was, you'd probably be indicted right here and now. But Buddy had his moves on me. I had my little stuffed animals that I would do my moves on because I wasn't messing with those Tiggers yet. I wasn't at that level. But I recall a story one day about you had moves of your own that might have got you a little caught up. Tell us about that.
All right. So allegedly, I don't know what he's talking about, but allegedly the story is that in high school I had this friend Eric, and we were in the auditorium, Sundown High School, and we're just messing around. You know, we're wrestling around a little bit, and he throws a gut punch, and I sold it because that's what you do when you're wrestling. Is you know somebody goes on the offensive and the other person sells it. So I sell it and jump up, fly back a little bit, land, roll down the stairs. It looked great. Problem is, it looked a little too good because one of the teachers saw it and sent us to the principal's office because we were fighting. Got in the office, explained to him, look, man, we're not fighting. We were wrestling. It's all playing. He's like, well, let's go back to the auditorium then, because if y'all are just playing, surely you can make it happen again.
Oh, and that's where they got you, right?
I'm like, cool, let's do it. So we go back. He throws the punch. I fly back, roll down the stairs. Apparently, we didn't convince him well enough because he told me I had two choices. A, I could go to ISS for fighting.
Oh, that's tough.
Or B, since I act so well, I can join one-act play. So I can honestly say that WWE got me into one-act play.
Oh, my goodness. You know,
hats off to you, WWE.
You know, I got to give my own WWE shout out there. I after taking all these punches and moves and all that, you know, I was kind of got a little aggressive, got a little about the fighting stuff because I was, you know, that's what I watched. And one day I'm sitting there with my brother. There's no WWE on at the time, you know. It's like a Thursday or something. There wasn't anything there. So I look up at the TV, you know, whatever I was doing, and there's some Dragon Ball playing. Dragon Ball Z. Now that's wild. Dragon Ball Z, that really got me going crazy.
Cool.
With the moves and the fighting just like WWE, but it's animated. So, you know, I personally think if I didn't watch WWE, I wouldn't have watched Dragon Ball. And that's like my stuff, you know. It's like both of those are like the coolest things that I watch, you know what I'm saying? So from Bruss himself, shout out WWE. Thank you.
And it's about that. It's something I said earlier that I just kind of want to expound on a little bit is it changed the culture. The Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Oh my goodness.
Whenever he came out and he said, is it real? No. Is it scripted? Yes. But do these guys come out and work their butts off for you 300 nights a year? Yes, they do. Do they put their bodies on the line for you every night? Yes, they do. This is sports entertainment. The man went from being a millionaire to a billionaire in 2 words in sports entertainment because the other guys down south are still sitting there going, it's real. It's real wrestling. Our characters are real. It's the real NWO. They're actually hitting them with that chair. They're actually, you know, going to hospitals or, excuse me, I think at the time it was medical facilities. I mean, he changed the culture in just that. And then you fast forward into your characters, you know, you've got The Rock. The Rock changed the way people talked. And it was a cool thing to see. And then fast forward a couple of years, he's gone from, you know, the Man of War, which I don't know how many people are going to remember that. But then he was Rocky Maivia, and then he took on the character of The Rock, got all that in, and now he's got his own show. You know, SmackDown came off of that.
The smacketh down.
Layeth the smacketh down. That, oh man, The Rock was such a great, like that. The Rock is really like past the watching the cool moves that got me invested. The Rock is what got me sitting down paying attention to storylines like my brother did, was, you know, paying attention to what people were saying, not just, oh, they're beefing because they're fixing a fight. The Rock would sit there and write a whole song about the dude he's fixing to fight. And I was like, oh my goodness, this guy's hilarious.
Yeah, the Vicky
I was like,
Guerrero
true
song.
maturity. Yeah, true maturity is realizing that John Cena in 2012 absolutely bodied The Rock.
Oh my God!
Just absolutely bodied
Oh
him.
my goodness! I'll tell you, I mean, that being maturity is the truth. When you started spitting that, I was dead set. I was like, no one beat The Rock. What are you talking about? He's the best mic man there is. You know.
I mean, I've got to agree. When I first started watching it, I thought Cena didn't have a chance because you had The Rock coming out with the. I was laughing, you know, and then, you know, you come out here looking like a bowl of Fruity Pebbles. Like, I'm like, you can't beat that until I hear, I bring it via satellite. I was like, wait a minute, what's happening here? So yeah, that was pretty good. All right. Going to take a quick second coming from the chat. Want to say what's up to Bro. Thanks for joining us. Glad to see you here.
Everybody. Avery.
Yeah, we got a bunch of people in there.
Yeah, appreciate all y'all for stopping in.
Unicorn aren't real. What?
We got Unicorn Aren't Real in the chat. Happy to see y'all.
Roughneck
What's
Country.
Roughneck Country. Let's ride, baby.
up?
All right. Well, now for the meat of it today, I wanna start off with my top 5 WWE wrestlers. So,
Don't judge him too hard, guys. Don't
all
judge
right,
him.
all right. So,
Well, before we get started on your top 5, what are we talking here? Are we talking top 5 all time? Top 5 current wrestlers? Top 5
I'm gonna say
Attitude Era on?
I'm gonna say. I mean, I guess Attitude Era on. It's not really because that's not what I'm quantifying it as. But they're all from Attitude Era on because that's what I grew up with. But
Use your big words with me.
So for me, okay, one big thing that for my list, I don't know what y'all's lists are. I'll hear them, but there's a big difference between top 5 wrestlers and top 5 most influential. So on my list, you aren't going to catch a guy like Hogan because he's not. Honestly, Hogan wasn't the best wrestler, but WWE would not be what it is today without him.
exactly.
Exactly. I mean,
So
he's honorable mention on my list.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
where I'm at is my wrestlers, which is probably going to be a little different than these two's list. But my wrestlers are just straight. I saw them and I was like, man, these guys are dope. And there was a few times where I was like, see, I was cheering for them because I liked them right when they came out. So I was like, yeah, let's go. And then I would see them do something. I'd be like, yeah, let's go. So that's basically what my list consists of. It's just the people that I like and just kind of little touching up on their moments. So to start off, I got to shout out some honorable mentions. This was already gonna just rock the world. It's The Rock. Oh my goodness. So I only have him at an honorable mention. I know y'all are freaking out right now.
Wait, what?
I
You
have
got the Rock
Dwayne
honorable mention.
The Rock Johnson at an honorable mention because I was never, my mom was the biggest Rock fan in the world. You know that.
Wow.
She loved The Rock.
it still is.
Loves.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
loves
loves.
with an S. Yeah, that's never gonna stop. But
Lady Guapo is in the chat.
every time, oh my goodness, shout out.
Shout out to
Lady
Guapo
Guapo
in the chat.
He
What's up?
knows. So, I kind of felt from the rip, I felt like she was like The Rock was a little bit off limits to be like, oh, that's my dude, you know what I'm saying? So I was kind of already like stepping back a little bit. And then when I would see him, I would never really look forward to his wrestling matches, which has nothing against him. He's still a great wrestler. But, I would see him and I would just see him all the time. And I'd be like, oh, yep, there people's elbow. There it is again. And just the way he'd move, I'd like it. But I was like, I guess it was overexposure on, which is really my fault, not his. But that's why he goes in an honorable mention. And my second honorable mention is I got to shout out the modern wrestling, my favorite modern wrestler, which with this recent Royal Rumble has changed from Austin Theory to I know y'all are fixing to go crazy, everyone who doesn't know wrestling, the Logan Paul. Wow. Y'all be saying that, Logan Paul, what? Bruss, Logan Paul.
I can't. Normally, I would start giving you all sorts of shade right now, but I can't hate that spot where him and Ricochet went rope for rope and met in the middle of the ring. I mean,
That was so
That was it.
dope. That was so dope.
I'll say Logan has put on. I mean, the few matches he's had has just been bangers. I mean, he's done well.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. So, to start off my list at the bottom, number 5, out of my top 5 wrestlers of the entire WWE, I gotta give it to Mick Foley. Loved the guy. He was awesome. He had these different characters, so I was always watching, like, I don't remember where it was now. He was like the Love Man. What was that?
Dude Love.
Dude Love. There we go. That was so funny.
Love Man?
In
He was the dude.
the bonus features of that little disc set we had was this match where he came out and they played like some musical chairs or something, and he was out there like officiating it. I was like, this dude is wild. And it was in the same disc set that I saw him get chokeslammed through a freaking cage. So I was like, man, there's no way.
Never forget the Royal Rumble that Mick Foley came out 3 different times as Dude Love,
Yes.
Mankind, and Cactus Jack.
Oh
Yeah,
my
okay,
goodness. And those other two, the Cactus Jack and Mankind, those were some wild dudes. Almost every time I saw him, either one of those, there was some sort of tax or barbed wire bat somewhere hidden somewhere that will be in his hands or on his body eventually. So, I mean, that was the first time I saw it. Like, people start bleeding, and it made me realize what bumps were. And I was like, all right, this guy's awesome. So, that does it for my number 5.
Well, and to touch on some of the stuff you don't know about Mick Foley. Early on, when he was doing the Cactus Jack character in New Japan and in WCW, he wrestled Terry Funk a lot. And those matches were not like the matches you see today. They had, ropes. The ring ropes were barbed wire.
Oh,
They had
jeez.
Texas Death Match. I mean, he lost part of his ear in a match in Germany because he got his head caught in the ropes.
Oh my!
I mean,
He's an intense guy.
he's been through some things.
He's wild. He's wild. So that does it for my number
4.
5.
Let's hear it.
Number 4. All right. So this one's kind of a little bit of a letdown, but for me personally, because from when I was little to even that Royal Rumble we just watched, Kofi Kingston. Oh my goodness.
Over the Rock, bro?
Okay, I know. Again, that's
crazy,
I'm not
bro.
saying by like objective
It's
news. This is
crazy.
purely my subjective opinion. I got a whole different list of who I think is just the best wrestlers, you know what I'm saying? But this is my opinion, so I'm taking that liberty. I gotta say Kofi Kingston. I'm sitting there like, Dad's like, hey, let's go watch the Rumble. Buddy's like, hey, let's go watch the Rumble. And I'm like, oh, man, all right, let's go watch this Royal Rumble. I see like 3 dudes come out. I'm like, oh, there's Triple H. Oh, there's John Cena. Oh, there's Batista. Like, it's these guys who have been the champs for like a month, 2 months, 3 months, a year, whatever. Like, I've been seeing them this whole time. I'm a big underdog guy. That's me. So I'm like, I feel like I can't root for the big names. So I see Kofi Kingston run out, looking all wild, doing these wild moves. Nothing too special in the ring. He's doing cool stuff. He's flying around. He's a little more of a lanky guy, so he's able to fly around like that. But then I'm like, oh, man, my man Kofi just got kicked out. He was kind of dope with what he was moving. And then somehow he's on some, like, rolly chair. He somehow got thrown all the way to the announcer's table. There just so happens to be, like, some body on the ground that he just stood on. Like, he would always have this spot. He hit a handstand. It was crazy.
Pancakes.
Oh, I was getting to that. So I was going crazy in those rumbles when I would first see him doing that. Especially one where he was on the rolly chair. That was the one that really made me remember because it was like rolling off. So he grabbed it and bounced it forward. I was watching that. I was like, this man is on live television bouncing a chair.
But his feet never touch the ground.
Exactly. He made it happen. So then I'm starting to watch this newer, 2015 forward wrestling. And the New Day pulls up. They all these crazy colors, the Bootios. Oh my goodness! I was like, these guys they got the trombone out. I was like, these guys are.
They rocks.
And I was like, these guys are funny. These guys are just straight funny guys. They almost every time lost when I watched them, but they're funny guys. You saw in the Rumble, Xavier Woods and Kofi. They hit the bongos. That was so funny. So there was this one Rumble where Big E came through and dropped pancakes in front of Kofi so that he could walk on the pancakes so his feet didn't touch the ground till he got back in the ring. Because that was their thing, is at the time, they were just pancakes. I don't know. So that's got to do it for my number 4. He was just so funny to watch.
And there are times, let's not lie to ourselves and say all the Rumbles were great, because they weren't. But I would watch the Rumbles just because I knew there would be a Kofi spot.
Exactly. All right, so now we're getting into it.
Number 3.
I just want you to know, Hunter, real quick, the chat loves you, brother. It's all over you.
Hey, I appreciate y'all, man. Thank y'all for coming. All right, so
It is number 3.
my number 3. This is already gonna make y'all go crazy because he's kind of irrelevant, but this dude was my number 2 past my number 1 until he's my number 3 though, you know what I'm saying? But he was the second person in wrestling that I really started cheering for. That is Rey Mysterio, Mr. 619. Rey Mysterio.
Oh yeah,
That dude has been in the game for a long time.
20 years.
That's crazy. 20 years. Listen to 20 years.
Or was it 2-3 months ago, he had his 20-year.
You're right.
Yep.
And he was supposed to be in that Rumble, but old Dom had to come through. You know what I'm saying? So, Rey Mysterio, I was always about the people, like I said, with Kofi and Jeff Hardy. I would see people flying around, just making these fluid movements that just go crazy. I would love those. So, when I saw him come in, he's this little short luchador guy. I was like, okay, this dude kind of moving because, he's smaller, so he was really moving around. And then I just looked away for a little bit. I just don't know why. I was paying attention to something else. I looked back, and someone's just slumped over the ropes. And I'm like, oh, man, he got him. And he's just running straight at him. I'm like, is he going to kick him in the back? No, he grabs the ropes, spins around, and kicks him in the face. I was like,
619.
you do not understand how many times I've tried to do that in our living room.
Oh, no, I do understand. Believe me.
Oh, my goodness. I couldn't ever figure it out. I was like, this man's a magician. And then every time after he would hit it, and every time that he had it set up, he would just jump on the ropes and just do this frog splash. It just felt like he was taking a picture in midair right before he landed. And I was like, this guy's awesome. This dude's just dope. And the ones that really got me were, he had his Hell in a Cell match with Batista, where he just, like a snake got out of there. And then there was the tag team match before that when him and Batista got the title. So that was just like a whole thing that I was going crazy with. But the two big things about him that I really liked was when I first saw Dom, I forgot who it was on now, but they hit a double 619 on him.
There's a couple of times they've done that.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
all I remember was it was a tag team match, and or it was I don't remember. The one I'm thinking of, I'm not sure of, but I just remember Dom came in. He wasn't even wrestling at the time. He just had his hoodie on. He wasn't in his whole thing that he was in, and they hit him with a double 619, and I was going crazy. I was like, that was so cool.
And now, Dom, now that he's done that hard prison time, he's
Yeah.
both hours encounter.
Goes running home to his mommy.
Thinks he's all big and bad. Yep, that dude's wild. But and then the second moment, it really has to be when he won the Royal Rumble in 2006.
Yep.
When I think it was Randy Orton who had him. They were they held him and were fixing to throw him off, and he grabs the rope and grabs him with his legs and just flips him over. Like, that's his thing, is he grabs him with the legs and flips him over. And he flipped him over the ropes, and I was just like, what? Because he would also hit those just random. He'd just be there, right place, right time to hit a 619 on someone that's bouncing off the ropes. It's so cool. Like the way he was the first one that really exposed me to the in the moment, while something's going on, just hitting your move, just out of nowhere, which leads me to my number 2, the man, the king of out of nowhere, Randy Orton. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness. He's my number 2.
Man.
Randy Orton. Because Randy Orton, we got to talking about it, I thought for a while, because I just hated him so much, that Edge was the best heel. Because everyone hated him so much. He was just awful. It was he was the bad guy of WWE. So when Randy Orton pulled up, I wasn't really about him all that much. But I'll tell you, around when The Shield came out with Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose, was when Randy Orton really caught my attention, because he was the big force, and then The Shield pulled up, and like I've already said, I'm not a root for the guy everyone likes. So when Randy Orton was the guy everyone likes, I was like, okay, let me see what he's doing, and he was just so it really fit his character so well, what he was supposed to be. He was supposed to be this bad guy that, he's kind of crazy, but he's also really cool, that was his thing, and that's what he did. He would take, the fact that everybody knows him as the bad guy, he would take that with his little stretch he does on the ropes. He would take that in. He'd be like, yes, that's me. I don't know. I wouldn't really notice that in anybody else. He would just have that face that he's like, yeah, I'm that guy. And I was like, okay. And then with the same thing that I really liked about Rey Mysterio, he hit those RKOs out of nowhere. Like I'm being like, people would be jumping off the ropes and he would just be like, "Oh, I'm dead. Wait a minute, boom, RKO." Crazy. He would come in, people are talking, trying to sign documents, boom, RKO. You're just like, where is this guy coming from?
And nobody could call it better than Michael Cole.
Oh my god, no, it's nowhere. Oh my goodness. So, and that would also be another thing is they really like fed his character with him. So it was just like the things that went together perfectly for Randy Orton, in my opinion.
Well, that has got me. I'm hearing things I wasn't expecting, so I'm like interested. So let's hear that number one spot.
Well, if you're expecting a out of left field, out of nowhere, if you will, you'd be wrong. You would be completely wrong. My number one, and always will be number one, is the Jeff Hardy of the Hardy Boys.
I kind of figured.
So, I mean, like I've already said, it was from the intro, from his dancing, I really liked him as he was. And, my brother, it's my big brother, I always looked up to him. That was his favorite wrestler. So, of course, I'd be like, oh, I want to be like my brother. I'm going to go root for Jeff Hardy in his matches. And then I would watch him and I'd be like, yo, this guy's dope. Let's go, Jeff Hardy. And then when Buddy moved out for a summer or so and he was just gone for a while, we had another disc set that was just dedicated Jeff Hardy matches. And oh my goodness, I would binge those every night. I would be like, dude, look at this guy. Like, he'd come out, me and Buddy both, we'd hear that music, we'd come out with the guns up, we'd be hitting that, we're like, let's go. And, like Buddy said, the Swanton bomb into the dumpster. I was like, this man, I swear he did that. He climbed up, stopped for a minute, we were like, yeah, let's go. Climbed up, he stopped for a minute, then he looked down and then kept going. Like, he was really milking that. I was just like, there's no way he's just gonna keep going. So he would hit those crazy swanton bombs, and just his moves were so fluid, like he looked really cool, like I was saying with Rey Mysterio, he hit that like picture perfect moment in the middle of the swanton bomb. He would just have
when he hits that swanton and lays out.
Exactly. Yes. Oh my goodness. And then this is like maybe I think is the most underrated move in wrestling is his whisper from the wind. I think that is the coolest thing. He would hit the second rope, not even the third rope. He would jump onto the second rope, hit that backflip, and kick him in the head. Like, I'm like, who else is doing that? Like, it's such a like universal move. It's like, it's just so cool. And the way that he did it was so fluid. He would always have those like baggy jeans, so it would just hit right. Like, oh man, he looks so cool doing that. So I was just, I like I said, he also just set the bar for everybody else in wrestling because I was infatuated by him, And even when Matt Hardy came into the picture, I was like, let's go, Jeff Hardy's brother. No, sir. Hated him so much. Awful. I watched one match in those disc set. Broken. There was like two matches with the Hardy Boys, the one with Edge and Christian and the Dudley Boys, cemented as my favorite match in history. That was crazy. And then Matt Hardy, I was like, oh man, this guy's dope. Matt Hardy's going crazy. And then they did a stretcher match, Jeff versus Matt. And Matt won. Oh, no, sir. No, sir. No, sir. Hated him after that. I was like, you can't beat Jeff Hardy. You're crazy. So, with that being said, that is my number one list. As to recap, number one, Jeff Hardy. Number two, Randy Orton. Number three, Rey Mysterio. Number four, Kofi Kingston. With number five, Mick Foley.
Now, I got to admit, man, that's a list I wasn't expecting. There were some things I thought I'd hear on your list that I didn't. We're going to go into Buddy's list next, but before we do, quick shout out to a few people. We've got HBO out there. We've got Macheese. Edgar Carrion.
Yes, sir.
We've got Miller. We've got Junior. We've got Kobe Jace. Thank you so much to all of you for being here. Appreciate y'all being here in the chat. Keep blowing it up. We're having a great time with it. With that, we're going to move into the man.
I really appreciate y'all coming out, man. This is thanks for being here for this debut. Yeah. Now, with my hot take list out of the way, in your opinion, I'm ready to flame what you got to set up. What do you got, Lil Guapo?
Okay,
what do you got?
So I'm more of a statistic based, I guess. Yours was a more subjective, like top 5 favorite wrestlers.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm going more towards like just statistically the greatest.
Okay.
He is the analyst of the group, so
That is the truth.
Yeah, my honorable mention is going to be John Cena.
fair. fair.
Dude's a 60, tied for the most world championships in history. Has been the face of the company for 12 years. I mean, he was the top guy for 12 years before he went
Well, and he hit his
part-time.
20-year mark not long ago too, before Ray did.
Yeah, he's even the face of 2K23, bro. Like this man is still relevant.
He was the number one guy for 12 straight years.
Yeah, 100%.
Until he went
100%.
part-time, he was the guy.
Yeah.
So he's my honorable mention. Number 5, I'm gonna go The Rock, because he
So low.
he did change the way people look at the way they talk. He was the first stick man. It's a term my father likes to use a lot. He was the stick man. No one could do better until I think there's one guy who came around who is actually going to be my number 4 on this list. We'll get into that. But the Rock he's number 5 on my list. He had,
That's awesome.
10-time champion, greatest on the mic ever.
Always the people's champion.
Yeah, the people's champ, the Brahma Bull, the great one.
Had his own show.
Yeah, I mean, and now he's the biggest,
Easy.
guy in Hollywood. Well, he's big.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
maybe not. Maybe not. He's not playing
right
Mario yet, so we can't really say anything.
Facts, but
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah,
he probably could.
I mean,
Tell you
you're
what.
not wrong.
I do have to ask though, why number 5? Why is he so low?
So his main event run wasn't very long. That's my thing. He came out as The Rock, the Nation in '98, and by '03 he was part-time. So I think, were he longer in the main event scene, I would have him higher. But
Gotcha.
with just his short time, that's why I have him at 5.
Okay.
Everyone else on this list was main event for a lot longer. That's the only reason some of these people are ahead of him.
I get that.
So number 4, this one's a little controversial, but number 4, I have Y2J, Chris Jericho.
Okay.
The El Champion.
Wow.
He is
a rock and roller.
Yeah, so he has 35 championships between every promotion he's ever been in. Guy's held 35 different belts. And
different?
He's been different belts. Yeah, 35 different belts.
Jeez.
Yes. And his ability to adapt his character over the years.
Oh yeah. 100%.
I mean, he is by far the best to do that. I mean, no one has had as many adaptations of their character get over as he has. I mean, a lot of people have changed their character, but they haven't been able to get it over the way he does. From his debut, also one of the best stickmen we've ever seen. I think.
I agree. I see
until he came in and really challenged The Rock for that with that ability to talk on the mic.
And that really, because of how big The Rock was, that just skyrocketed both of them because they were both so good at, like, Chris Jericho really made both of them like so big.
I mean, I could have done without the Pebbles Flintstone hairdo. So.
Yeah. And then his debut too was, he came out and had a stick battle with The Rock.
Yeah.
I mean, what else? Like, what is a better sign of the company having confidence in you than that? All right, so we're gonna move on to number 3.
If he ever finds out, just so you know, if Jericho ever finds out you rated him 4 on a top 5 list, you just need to understand you've made the list.
Yeah, hey, he made the list. All right, he made the list.
He did.
All right, so number 3, my father's probably not going to agree with this one. I have Mark Calloway, The Undertaker, at number 3.
Wow, number 3.
Yeah.
Oh, well, hey,
Number
settle down. He's at his house. He's not here.
All right, so
I don't want you punching me.
The Undertaker, 30 years is a long time. And, granted, the last 10 years was mainly part-time, but everyone looked forward to WrestleMania with the streak. Like, who's he facing this year for the streak? The streak is iconic. It is synonymous with wrestling. Like, you think of big things in wrestling, you think the streak. I mean, uh, the fact that they had Brock Lesnar break the streak still, bewilders me to this day.
Yeah,
But
Same.
that
it,
was a
it it didn't
wild.
make any sense to me. Also, same as Chris Jericho, super adaptable. Had multiple iterations of his character that all got over. Ministry Taker was a little weird, but still got it over. um, 8-time world champion. He won the tag titles 6 different times. I mean, just statistically, the other two guys that I have ahead of him are, one of them has to do with backstage a little bit, and the other one, I mean, you just can't deny him. But number two, I have.
Well, yeah, I gotta say with the Undertaker, he made those buried alive matches. I gotta say something about that.
Yeah,
Those, like, my favorite thing was always those different than just the normal match. Especially the no holds barred and the Hell in a Cell matches.
Yeah.
So when Undertaker
yeah,
came out with that buried alive match, I was like, dude, this thing is wild, and that really like expedited his character just so much further than I've seen anybody else. So
man,
I completely understand
Undertaker
that.
in a Hell in a Cell match. Well, you knew something crazy was going to happen.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah.
Like
I
it's
mean, the first one, it's him and Shawn Michaels, and Kane comes and just Kane debuts, rips the door off, and choke slams the Undertaker, and Shawn Michaels wins. Second one, he throws Mankind off the freaking cell. Uh, Third one, he choke slams Rikishi into a
oh
pile
my,
of hay.
yes, that stuff was crazy.
Yep.
I
Yeah,
thought he
like
was
what?
dead
Like
when I
if
saw that. I
if
thought Rikishi had died in that moment.
yeah, Undertaker in a Hell in a Cell was just. I mean, you knew something crazy was going to happen.
So
Uh,
crazier than the Hell in a Cell man himself. What do you got at number two?
Number two,
Number two.
I have Hunter Hearst Helmsley,
Oh,
Triple H,
The
the
game.
man.
the game, the cerebral assassin, the dude. He, uh, 14-time world champion, was great at whatever his position was, whether he was face or heel. He was great at being the best at those two things. If Triple H was a heel, you hated Triple H. I mean, he made you hate him. If he was a face, you loved Triple H. Like he was, one of your favorites. He was very good at manipulating a crowd, which transitioned to him. He is the ultimate pro when it comes to backstage. He runs creative now. The
Yeah.
storytelling he could do, storytelling he still does. I mean, me, I'm a big story guy. I love good storylines, and Triple H was involved in a lot of them. Triple H is single-handedly responsible for Randy Orton and Batista.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
He handpicked the both of them for Evolution, and look at what they did. I mean,
Yeah, they're
Randy Orton's number 2 on your
giant
list.
names. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
And like he
Triple
knows
H
the
has done
game like the
so
back
much.
of his hand. He knows, like you
Because
said,
he's the
that's the
game.
really
He is the
important
game.
part. He literally
He
is.
is
Yes,
the game.
he knows from a storytelling, from being a face, from being a heel, from what to do in the ring, like the general conduct. He knows all of it. And he was crazy with when he was a heel, he would do some wild stuff with the like no holds barred matches.
Yep.
Like he was a jack of all trades, and like you said, he was the best at every single iteration of what he was doing.
I have a
Mhm.
feeling the fact that Triple H is number 2 in your list, I have a feeling I know who number 1 is. So lay it on us. Who's that number 1?
All
What do you
right,
got?
number 1 is Shawn Michaels.
The
Shawn
Heartbreak Kid.
Michaels, the
Wow,
Heartbreak Kid, the showstopper, Mr. WrestleMania himself.
Mr. WrestleMania.
You know, doing my research and everything, he won Match of the Year 11 times in his 20-year career.
Golly.
Matt, I mean, you can't find a bad Shawn Michaels pay-per-view match. He had Match of the Decade for 2000 to 2009, Match of the Decade for 2010 to 2019. I mean, there's a
Jeez.
reason he was called the Mr. WrestleMania or the Showstopper. He constantly just put on great matches. I mean, that's the name of the game. It's WWE World Wrestling Entertainment. You know,
He was the
wrestling.
entertainment.
Yes, I mean, he was the best best in-ring performer I've ever seen personally.
I gotta say, when I saw him get hit and then stand up on his head, maybe one of the funniest things I've seen in the ring in my entire life.
So, so the story behind that happened twice. The story behind the second one was he had a match with Hollywood, or I guess he was just regular Hulk Hogan at the time. But when Hulk Hogan came back from WCW, they were supposed to have a trilogy of matches, and last minute, Hogan was going to win one, Michaels was going to win one, and then Hogan was going to win the third. That was the plan. Last minute, Hogan was like, "I'm only going to do one match, and I want to go over." So Shawn Michaels made a joke of the match because
oversold everything.
Elvis, yeah, I was about to say, he was laying on the ropes and Hulk Hogan kicked him and he flew up in the air he just oversold.
It would hit
everything.
the ground and roll
so
8 times. Yeah. That's why it was. I forgot that was Hulk Hogan. I just knew that he was doing it on purpose, and it was so funny. It was just so funny.
And then the transition of the Attitude Era hinged on 2 people, Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Those 2, which not having Stone Cold on the list is something that
I'm a little surprised.
I'm surprised.
Yeah,
with what you're saying, but
that's my top 5: Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Taker, Jericho, The Rock.
Not bad.
Those are some big dudes.
Before I get into mine, I want to once again say thank you to everybody in the chat. I'm so happy you guys came to join us with this. We're having a great time with it. Hope you are too. Got to get the business out of the way. If you like what you're seeing, we're doing this every Sunday night. Make sure you hit that follow button.
Yes, sir.
We want you to know when we're doing our stuff. And I guess that takes me into my list. Now, you've heard Bruss's list. He's more of the hot take kind of guy. Buddy's list is more analytics and statistics. I'm a story guy. I'm a storyteller. The storytelling aspect of all of it is what pushes my list.
Gotcha.
So while some of the ones are going to carry over from the other 2 lists, it's for, there's some different reasons for it. My number 5, well, before I get to my number 5, I have 2 honorable mentions. And I feel like they've got to be spoken about because we wouldn't have wrestling today without them. And the first one is Hulk Hogan, because without Hulkamania, none of this happens. You don't have an Attitude Era. You don't have any of what we have now. Without Hulkamania, it doesn't happen. And I guess it's more, the honorable mention's more for the Hulkamania movement than it is for Hulk Hogan himself, because I never liked him personally. Well, I did when I was a little kid, but we all did. We took our vitamins, we said our prayers. It was a fact. So he's my first honorable mention. The second one is Vince McMahon. The man is a genius, and without his taking it out of the territories and making it one big company, and without making it sports entertainment, and without that vision to say, we're going to push these storylines and get away from, bad guys and good guys and make it Attitude, we wouldn't be where we're at today. So there's my honorable mention.
All right. Well, I got to throw the flag. 15-yard timeout. What? He's a genius.
Absolutely.
Who runs a wrestling entertainment billion-dollar company. He's great at it, but somehow enters the ring and tears both of his quads.
I didn't say he was a good wrestler.
I said, tell me how he's exposed that he made a whole business off of it, or both of his quads just getting in.
Well, see, that's just a badass he is, because not only did he tear both of his quads, he went ahead and stayed in the ring, sat against the ropes, and bitched everybody there out. He told everybody.
He really tried to stand up to him and did not work, but they still was out of there.
But that's why they get my honorable mention, because we don't have what we've got today without those 2.
Oh, yeah.
But now we'll get into my list. Number 5. Somewhat like yours, my number 5 is the man of many faces, the guy that would put his body on the line all the time, Mama Foley's baby boy, Mick Foley.
Put it there.
And the reason for that is Mick was a storyteller. It wasn't just, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to fly off the Hell in a Cell. It was always, what can we do to step it up for the people that are watching? What can we do to give them the best show? What can we do to move this storyline forward? So, like King of the Ring 98, when Taker threw him off, not only threw him off of Hell in a Cell, but then chokeslammed him through the Hell in a Cell. The only people that knew that were going to happen were Taker, Mick, and Vince. And Vince is like, I don't know about it. I mean, if it'll make me money, go ahead. But Taker didn't want to do it. And Mick's like, throw me off the cell. Throw me off the cell. So he did. And it was probably the biggest bump of all time. It's the one when somebody thinks about major bumps, that's what they think about is Mick Foley flying off the top of the Hell in a Cell into the announce table. You ask him about it, he says the second one where he goes through the Hell in a Cell is what hurt worse. So just his ability to put out for the fans and to further storylines and stuff, that's what puts Mick Foley in at my number 5.
That's pretty.
Another thing that he did that is kind of underrated is he really elevated a lot of guys to the main event. Like his Cactus Jack feud with Triple H, that's whenever he started the whole game thing, and that really elevated him. And then Randy Orton and the whole Legend Killer deal,
Oh, yeah.
that elevated Randy. And then Edge, whenever they had that feud and he speared him through the table on fire, that's whenever Edge really
forgot about that.
And while The Rock was already on his way up, the I Quit match where he took 17 chair shots to the head. I mean, that elevated The Rock.
Yeah, he was such a foil character, and he put his body on the line for the company. Like he would sacrifice himself in every way possible for WWE, for the people he's wrestling. He would do whatever he can to make sure that match was great. He'd do whatever he can to make sure his characters were great for he was, in my opinion, the most for the fans guy in terms of just what he did.
Fair. So all of that together is why Mick is my number 5. At number 4, somebody give me oh hell yeah, because Stone Cold Steve Austin, the guy that didn't make one of those lists, is my number 4 because
he's on one of ours.
Steve Austin started the Attitude Era. He, granted, I remember him when he was stunning Steve Austin and had the long hair as part of the Hollywood Blondes.
Oof.
But when he got to WWF at the time, and he put on the vest and he shaved his head and he drank the Steve Weisers and he flipped the bird to.
And 316 says, "I just whipped your ass."
Yeah, and that in itself, it was crazy how that came about because he's going against Jake the Snake Roberts at King of the Ring. Jake the Snake's, he's the real calm, collected guy. He doesn't raise his voice very much, and he's throwing Bible quotes out there all the time. And they're Stone Cold, You got your Bible, you got your John 3:16. Well, Austin 3:16 says, "I just whoop your ass." The next thing you know, there's Austin 3:16 signs everywhere. There's Austin 3:16 shirt.
I'm pretty sure at that Royal Rumble pay-per-view, somebody had an Austin 3:16 poster. It's still
what?
Yeah. What?
That dude.
The reason Stone Cold is at number 4 on my list and not way higher is. And hopefully he's not watching this because I didn't knock on my door, but he's kind of a one-trick pony. I mean, that one trick was awesome. He was the badass that came through and beat up the boss and flipped the bird and all that. But that's really all he had.
Not only did he stick it to the boss, he also punched him repeatedly while he was in the hospital. So he really
he hit him with his
the bedpan.
Bam.
Oh my. Yeah, so he was really.
But that was it. That's what he had. He had his funny moments like the what thing. I'm going to drink a Steve Weiser. And then another Steve Weiser. 3 Steve Weisers. 4 Steve. He had his funny moments. But it was kind of a one-trick pony there. And that's why he lands at number 4. As important as he was to the Attitude Era, he's number 4 on my list.
Wow. So your top 3 with the man himself, Stone Cold Steve Austin, not making it. Where is your top 3?
Number 3. He was on both of your lists. In odd places, I might add. But somewhat for the same reason is The Rock. The Rock is number 3 on my list. And he's number 3 on my list because he was the stick man. Before you had your Chris Jericho, before you had your CM Punk, before you had your MJF, he was the one. Before you had the Miz, he was the guy
he can't even touch
that could get on the mic and you listen. You waited for him to grab a mic and start talking because he was going to say something amazing. His catchphrases, just The Rock says, "If you smell what The Rock is cooking, lay the smack down. Just bring it." I mean, everything.
Somebody what you think.
So The Rock is on Buddy's list. The Rock is on my list. The Rock is on
My
your
list.
list. The Rock is on our chat's list. The real question that we need to ask the Not Your Average Mark Wrestling podcast is: can any of us here smell what The Rock is
It
cooking?
doesn't matter if you smell.
Oh
the
my
rice.
goodness, it doesn't.
But it's things like that. It doesn't matter. It was always
It was
gold
so
when he had a
funny.
mic in his hand. But again, somewhat like Steve Austin, he's kind of a one-trick pony when he got in the ring. He do the spit on his hand, slap him a few times in the ring, run around the ring, knock him down a few times, people's elbow, do the rock bottom, 1, 2, 3, done.
Yeah.
You can you knew where the match was going, but you still watched it anyway because he was that good. And he changed his character up. He tried to go heel. The people wouldn't let him go heel.
No,
So he had to stay a face. So he could move a storyline like no other. But again, one trick pony. When you get him in the ring, he's got a small set of moves, and it's kind of like Buddy said. I mean, his time in the ring his big push didn't last very long.
Yeah. So with
Yeah. Go ahead.
Good.
Oh, well, I was just gonna say with those two being one trick ponies, I'm assuming your top two is got a
Not
little
one-
more to
They're
them.
not one trick ponies.
So
So my number 2 is The Game. What I hated hearing him talk because he'd always talk like this.
with the gruff voice, because I'm the game.
Triple H is the game. I know that he has the character, I'm not a student of the game, I am the game. That was a great line and all that, but he really is the game. He went from, driving around Kevin Nash and Scott Hall and Shawn Michaels, kind of forming up the clique. He was the one that was always listening and always taking in information and all of this stuff. And then, the clique, they break up, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall are going to WCW. And so right there in the middle of Madison Square Garden after the match, they break kayfabe and they hug each other right there in the middle of the ring. The good guys and the bad guys are hugging each other. You're not supposed to do that. That's not ever supposed to happen. There's going to be some hell to pay for this. Well, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall are leaving. They're not going to pay for it. Shawn Michaels is the champion. He's not going to pay for it. So it all fell on Triple H, and he took it. He had to job, and I'm showing my age here, I know, but he had to job to the Brooklyn Brawler. Like, that was part of his punishment, was he had to lose a match to the Brooklyn Brawler, of all people.
I don't know who that is.
He was scheduled to win King of the Ring that year, and because of that, he didn't get to win.
And he didn't get
I'm pretty sure that was the
for-
same year. I'm pretty sure that was the same year that they decided to give it to Austin too.
It is.
I'm pretty
It was-
sure that's
it was
what
the same
happened.
year. And
Well-
he didn't get any wins for like a minute.
I don't know who the Brooklyn Brawler is. I doubt.
Way back in the 80s.
Yeah, people
He
in
was an
the
80s
chat know
wrestler.
who the Brooklyn
But
Brawler is.
think about that for a second. An 80s gimmick wrestler. You are Triple H, and you're now forced to lose
Exactly.
to this 80s gimmick wrestler.
I like I said, the only other person I think would do something like that is Mick Foley, and I still.
Well, and he took it. He took every bit of it, and he learned from it, and he still was taking in all this knowledge from all these people, and then he built his own brand. He got with Shawn, and they did the whole DX thing, and it's iconic.
It really is.
DX is if I could
That's the
pick a word to talk about DX, it's iconic. So he runs through DX. Shawn Michaels gets hurt. He's got to redo DX, and he does it, takes the lead and just runs with it. And then he splits from DX. The most popular thing in wrestling, he's like, nope, not going to do it anymore because now I'm going to do me. And he makes this brand of the game. And then he's a cerebral assassin, and he's, he moves through
King of
everything.
Kings.
Yep, King of Kings. You fast forward through all of that. He retires, and now he's on the business side of things. So he knows
He
the
really did it
entirety
all.
of the business. He's the chief operations officer. He's the head of talent. I mean, he knows the
Head of
business side of
creative.
it. It doesn't hurt that he married the boss's daughter, but we're not even going to get into that.
That was a wild thing. So
Yeah, let's not
before
talk about
hold,
that.
Hold on. So he goes through the whole thing, and he'll still get out there and make fun of himself. Like what was it? 2-3 weeks ago they had Raw 30, and he gets face to face with Gunther.
Oh, yeah.
Gunther wants him out of the ring. He says, unless one of y'all wants to fight me, and Triple H gets that look that only Triple H can get, gets right in front of his face and says, I'm retired, dude.
I'm too old. I can't do it.
So it's cool to have him out there. Now, what were you going to say?
So I was gonna say before you get into your number one, we gotta address Lady Guapo here. The Rock is on every single one of our lists, but evidently not high enough. What she has to say is The Rock had a show. He was a musician in the ring. Listen to that. So not
Did
just,
you
was.
hear him sing?
not just when he played the guitar in the ring.
I'm sorry. What he's saying to Vicky Guerrero does not make him. That does not make him a musician.
She said that he was also able to be technical, which provided the example of the Rock and Sock connection. Now, there's something
fair.
of substance.
That's
And she also said that The Rock could be a showman, doing the people's elbow, laying the smackets down, and also started as a more of a dancer wrestler. So he's
yeah. When he was the Man of War, he did a whole lot of the what do they call it, coopera or something like that. The dance fighting. He did a lot of that.
so. Then, Lady Guapo's opinion, we because of his not actual musician skills, but his being a musician in the ring should elevate him a little bit.
Well, we're gonna get.
Oh,
And-
we can't leave out the fact that that's her kayfabe husband. Okay.
That is her. That's true. And this is, I love this. I love the fact that we're getting responses from the chat and what they think about it. And we want you to keep doing that. More of it. Anything you want to say, bring it on. But with that, I'm going to go into my number one.
Ooh, drum roll, please.
My number one always is, always was, always will be the dead man himself, Mark Calloway, The Undertaker. The Undertaker, from the time he came in at Survivor Series 1990, he was a force to be reckoned with. Like, I think the very first thing that got said when he shows up, because he was a surprise entrant on Ted DiBiase's Survivor Series team, was, look at the hams on that one. Because he's, this tall and just sitting there with a stone face, and nobody knew what to think, and people were intimidated by it. And for 30 years, this man stayed in character. Whether it was that first iteration or the Prince of Darkness iteration or the American Badass or the rewrite of The Undertaker. I mean, he was in character for 30 years. And there was never a question, ever, of whether or not he was WWF, WWE. When they were having the Monday Night Wars, there was, these people are jumping to WWF. These people are coming over to WCW. There was never a question of where his loyalty lied. So he was
the guy.
Well, that's the guy. He was the locker room general. He was the guy that everybody looked up to in the locker room, who everybody went to for questions. He was a ring general. He was what WWF, WWE was supposed to be. And he could tell a story. Like the Brothers of Destruction thing was great. The him and Mankind thing was great. Him as the American Badass. I mean, that's my personal favorite iteration because that was the most like Mark Calloway. And if you haven't seen The Last Ride, check that out because it's great. It's a documentary all about him.
Yeah, not only could he make a story, they made a story about him.
Yeah, that was his final ride. But he made the WWE and WWF what it was in a time where people weren't sure what it was going to be, which is why he lands number one on my list.
Well, that was a pretty intense. I would say yours is pretty much a mix between mine and Buddy's. Mine was
Kind of.
pretty much purely subjective. Buddy's was very analytical. You kind of meshed those together, added a little age to it, and there you go. So that was very, all in all, there was some very wild picks. Some very, we all knew like The Rock was going to be there.
Right.
We expected these.
Well, we're getting about that time. We're going to go ahead and shut it down. I want to again thank my co-hosts here, Bruss, Buddy. Appreciate y'all joining me on the podcast. I can't wait to do this again next Sunday. To the guy, thank you for making it all work.
Appreciate it, the guy.
Appreciate you, dog.
And another humongous shout out to the chat. Everyone
Absolutely.
who's followed us.
Everyone who stopped by in today.
Yes, I really
we appreciate all of
y'all.
you.
End up watching the VOD. Yeah, here's y'all shout out. Y'all really keep this going right now. This puts a smile on my face seeing all the conversations going on over there.
Absolutely.
And when we start rolling into it, give us more of your feedback like Lady Guapo did. We'll talk about this. This what we want to do here is have our not our average marks here discussing wrestling.
One.
As Russell did say, she was expecting to see Sting on your list somewhere.
Oh, we're going to be talking WCW a little later. Sting, granted, Sting did make his way to the WWE, but it was very short lived. But
Past his prime.
There is going to be a subject we talk about that Sting will be included in. I assure you. I do want to again give a big shout out to Ross and Labor 12 for our music because it just freaking rocks. The track is Head Rush. The album is Monsters. Check it out. It's great.
Yeah, y'all trying to lift? Oh my goodness, that is some hype music right there.
Oh yeah. To the chat again, thank you so much. We'll do this again next Sunday, 9:00. I want all of you to be there. Give us your ideas. Something you want to hear on the podcast? Send it to us. We've got all our socials out there.
Yeah, hit up our socials. Say what we're going to talk about.
And with that, I think we're going to close it out. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to the co-host. That's going to do it for us. We are not your average marks.
See y'all later.